Will you check under the bed and make sure there's no Disney executives under there?
Disney company absolutely panic over the last few weeks. They're mad at South Park because they're making fun of their woke ideologies, constantly race swapping or religion swapping everything in their movies.
Rachel Ziegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
You know, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it. You didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White.
Right.
You should shut up and do the job.
So Snow White slept and waited for her prince to come, but he never did. Because a woman shouldn't have to depend on a man. Snow White was brought back to life by a lady doctor.
And she lived happily ever after?
Well, she couldn't indulge in strenuous activities like handball, but otherwise, she was fine.
That's nice.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
Weird.
Ordinary apple, my dear. It's a magic wishing apple.
A wishing apple?
You offer it to me freely. In place of the patriarchy, you would have a queen! Not white, but diverse, inclusive, and equitable! I will become the leader I know I can be! All shall love me and despair!
The moment it hit the streets that Rachel Ziegler was taking Trey Parker and Matt Stone to court with a jaw-dropping 9-figure defamation lawsuit, Hollywood knew this wasn't just another petty dispute. No, this was a showdown of epic proportions, a modern-day battle between a rising star trying to recover from the wreckage of Disney's infamous Snow White reboot and two fearless creators of South Park who'd made their careers out of tearing pop culture apart without any hesitation. On one side, Rachel Ziegler, an actress who had already faced backlash from her controversial portrayal of Snow White, only to find herself dragged into another firestorm with no way out. On the other side, Parker and Stone, the creative duo who'd become the unsung kings of irreverent comedy, masters at pushing boundaries, exposing hypocrisy, and mocking anything and everything. What started as just another wild, satirical episode of South Park quickly exploded into a high-stakes, legal battle that no one saw coming. Everything spiraled after South Park aired an episode that relentlessly roasted Rachel's interpretation of Disney's classic princess. Fans were cracking up, but in the entertainment world, the fallout was anything but funny. The animated version of Rachel was out in the kingdom, strutting through the streets, smartphone in hand like it was a royal accessory, delivering some scathing takes on Hollywood, history, and culture wars. Each scene got more ridiculous than the last, culminating in a musical number that mocked Hollywood's obsession with big-budget hilarious parody. But to Rachel, this was personal. When she saw her cartoon counterpart, her grin disappeared. The episode wasn't just making fun of a movie, it was destroying her reputation. The next thing the world knew, TMZ dropped the bombshell. Rachel was suing for $100 million. It wasn't just a legal tactic or a plea for an apology, she was coming for blood. The lawsuit claimed that Parker and Stone didn't just poke fun at her, they ruined her career, making her look like a clueless, entitled starlet who had single-handedly derailed a blockbuster movie. Her legal team wasn't just upset about the general parody. They took issue with specific scenes where the animated Rachel was shown to be pocketing money from the film's budget, sarcastically mocking the idea of expensive budget snacks costing $40 million. Rachel's camp wasn't laughing. They called it malicious, unfair, and claimed it was a direct attack on her character. The suit argued that since the episode aired, job offers had started drying up, with some studios explicitly saying they were waiting for the controversy to cool off. In other words, the damage was real. Behind the scenes, as Trey and Matt wrapped up a writer meeting at South Park headquarters, the legal storm hit them like a ton of bricks. Their phones were blowing up, notifications from Variety, Deadline, and news outlets everywhere. The two creators locked eyes, knowing that this time, the stakes were higher than ever.
Major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Ziegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special and what they recently did toward both Zegler and the Disney company for their Snow White film. It turns out that both Trey Parker and Matt Stone are already preparing for the DEI Special.
They'd been through the ringer before: lawsuits from religious groups, protests from corporate giants, even threats from angry celebrities. But this? A single actress taking them to court for a 9-figure amount? This was new. In their usually irreverent world, things had just taken a serious turn. The first reactions from Parker and Stone? A mix of annoyance and low-key amusement. One writer even cracked a joke: "Guess we're finally worth $100 million each," which got a nervous laugh in the room, but the vibe was tense. Times had changed since South Park first aired in 1997. Back then, late-night cable allowed them to push satire without worrying too much about the consequences. But now, every joke hit the internet in an instant, dissected and shared by millions. If a court ruled that their Snow White parody was defamation, it could rock their entire future, including a massive rumored deal with Paramount Plus worth nearly $1 billion. Public opinion split into two camps almost immediately. On one side, supporters saw Rachel as a victim of relentless internet hate, calling her lawsuit brave and heroic for standing up to what they saw as unchecked harassment from animation. On the other side, South Park fans rallied behind Trey and Matt, using the hashtag satire is not slander to defend their right to parody public figures without fear of legal repercussions. Late-night hosts had a field day, while legal experts debated one burning question: can a cartoon really be considered defamation? While Parker and Stone kept silent, their legal team scrambled to prepare for the upcoming court battle. The fear was that any misstep in their defense could be seen as retaliation or just fuel for Rachel's case. So instead of continuing their usual satire-heavy approach, they turned to silence, but their creativity was still churning behind closed doors. Ideas for episodes flooded their writer's room: a trial featuring puppet versions of themselves, a ridiculous song titled "Sue Me Gently," and even a courtroom sketch drawn by toddlers. But nothing was released. Meanwhile, Rachel was deep in her own journey. She wasn't just suing for the money, she was sending a message. She wasn't going to be pigeonholed as the punchline of a joke in a dress, endlessly mocked by internet memes. Critics claimed she was overreacting, but supporters pointed out that she was just starting out, her career was fragile, and one viral moment could define her future. As the lawsuit progressed, Rachel appeared on a late-night talk show, not one known for edgy humor, and gave an emotional interview. Tearful but composed, she explained that while she respected comedy, there was a limit. She wasn't fighting free speech, she was fighting for respect in an industry where jokes sometimes cross the line into destructive territory. The legal drama continued to spiral. As the pre-trial hearings approached, the courtroom became a spectacle. Cameras captured Rachel and the creators arriving, dressed to impress. Parker and Stone arrived in understated suits but couldn't resist injecting some South Park flair. Matt's tie was covered in tiny cutout cartoon figures, while Trey wore cufflinks shaped like mini TV sets. The scene was set for a battle that would shake up the entertainment industry. When the trial finally kicked off, the stakes were incredibly high. Rachel's lawyer painted a picture of a young woman's career being ruined by an exaggerated parody. Meanwhile, Parker and Stone's defense celebrated the tradition of satire in America, stressing the importance of pushing boundaries in comedy. In a dramatic moment, one lawyer even asked, "Do we really want a world where cartoons need a disclaimer? No parody intended?" The courtroom was captivated. Witnesses lined up, from media experts to psychologists, all weighing in on the impact of the South Park episode. Even the creators themselves took the stand, explaining how they satirized public figures and events with no intention of causing harm. They simply wanted to make people laugh. Then it was Rachel's turn. With unwavering composure, she took the stand and recounted the emotional toll of waking up to social media posts mocking her character, questioning her professionalism, and spreading hateful messages. She spoke about the anxiety, canceled auditions, and the fear of being typecast as a difficult actress. She described how, for someone just starting out, these jokes weren't just funny, they were career killers. Finally, after intense deliberations, the jury returned its verdict: not guilty. Trey Parker and Matt Stone were cleared of any liability. The jury acknowledged Rachel's pain but ruled that the episode was unmistakably a parody. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief as Comedy Central executives exhaled in unison. Despite the victory, both sides knew the battle had changed the landscape. The conversation around where satire ends and defamation begins was louder than ever. In the weeks following the trial, Rachel threw herself into a more grounded indie film role, away from the glitz and scrutiny of big studio blockbusters. Her performance was praised, but the shadow of South Park still loomed large. When she did press tours, interviewers would circle back to the lawsuit, but she kept her cool, pivoting back to her work rather than dwelling on the past. Meanwhile, Parker and Stone returned to their South Park writing room, diving headfirst into their next season. They even aired an episode poking fun at the lawsuit, without naming names, but making it clear who the parody was really about. The episode reignited the debate, with fans and critics alike dissecting it. The stakes had shifted. It was clear that satire in today's world came with a new level of responsibility. As the dust settled, both sides learned hard lessons. For Rachel, the trial had been a way to protect her image in an unforgiving industry, gaining respect for standing up for herself. As for Parker and Stone, their brand of fearless, boundary-pushing humor remained intact, but the reality of the new age of social media and viral moments had hit home. The trial had made one thing clear: satire still held massive cultural power, but it wasn't immune from consequences. In today's hyper-connected world, even the most outrageous joke could leave lasting scars. And while the South Park creators' victory may have been legal, it came with the understanding that the landscape had shifted, perhaps forever. Satire and criticism would forever dance together, clashing, reshaping the culture, and keeping the lines between humor and harm more blurred than ever.